Good morning. Welcome to TSAT live session. Today we are going to discuss about TET syllabus, particularly child development and pedagogy. This particular session is totally dedicated to the teachers or the aspirants who are going to attend TET exam. This session is totally dedicated to English medium section students. Now we are going to discuss about CDP, that means child development and pedagogy. This is otherwise called as psychology. Here psycho and logos, these two words are very important in our upcoming examination. I would like to discuss about what chapters actually mentioned in the syllabus and how to study those chapters, what are the important areas where the question should be asked from the syllabus, and other things will be discussed in this session. My dear aspirants, I would like to share one more thing to you. This is most important to understand the pedagogical concerns and child development learning theories and other things mentioned in the syllabus. One of the most important thing here is, among all the subject areas mentioned in the teacher eligibility test syllabus, child development and pedagogy is allotted for 30 marks. So, it plays a dominant role in the examination. So, we are going to adopt some particular type of study habit to get good marks in the examination. And one more point here is, most of the teacher aspirants believes that child development and pedagogy is very tough topic, but that is not correct. Why? Because a limited syllabus is there and two important textbooks are available with us. My humble request is, you people should follow these two textbooks only. Why? Because almost all the questions should be asked from these two textbooks. What are they? These two textbooks are published by the Telugu Academy. One is for Diploma in Education course psychology textbook, and the other is diploma same type of textbook for B.Ed course. These two textbooks are very essential for the examination. So, you people should go through these two textbooks. Most of the questions are directly taken from the textbook, but the major portion of questions from this child development and pedagogy, most of the questions are in application oriented questions. So, you have to understand what concepts are actually discussed in the textbook and try to analyze in what way the concept is introduced in the question, in what way the concept is applied in the question. So, you should practice to understand the concept and in what way the concept was intermixed in the question. I would like to add one more point here is, you need not worry about all the concepts given in the textbook, but you have to make your own plan to prepare examination. The major thing here is, there are so many topics, but the topics are interrelated with each other. You have to list out all the topics, in what way they are interconnected with one chapter to the other. For example, some learning theories are there. These learning theories are somewhat related to other chapters such as personality, intelligence, growth and development. So, the learning chapter is almost associated with the concept discussed in growth and development chapter, intelligence and personality. So, these 4 chapters plays a dominant role in the examination. So, we have to make our own plan to practice is such a way it will give us good results. So, my dear friends, now we will discuss about the syllabus, what is mentioned in the notification. This will give a good insight how to prepare for the examination, how to get good marks, how to conquer the fort. So, wish you good luck, and my request is please note down whatever point you feel is important in our discussion is most important. Why? Because I would like to add some more questions what are actually already given in the examinations, and some practice questions and some questions given in the model test papers and mock tests, etc. So, my request is please note down whatever point you feel important to the examination. And another thing is, all the points discussed in the textbook are arranged in a sequential order. If you want to learn in the middle of the chapter or one particular point, it is not so easy to understand. So, you have a specific plan, you should start from the beginning point, then some association and alignment is there among these topics. So, my suggestion is you should read from the beginning to the end of the textbook. Most of the cases the paper setters pick up questions as it is from the textbook. Already you have some previous papers, and mock test papers are also available in the online. If you go through those questions, the statement is directly taken from the textbook. Why? Because there are some obligations about the examination. To avoid such type of obligations and other legal issues, most of the paper setters pick up questions directly from the textbook. So, you need not worry about child development and pedagogy portion is a toughest part. The only thing here is you have to practice, you have to go through the textbook, you have to make your own notes, you have to attend as many mock tests as possible. This will give us good results. So, important portion in the syllabus mentioned here is there are 6 major subheads in the syllabus. Among them, one is development of child. The first and foremost important thing is development of child, and second one is understanding learning. That is also one of the important point. And the other portion here is pedagogical concerns. These 3 chapters plays a vital role in the teacher eligibility test examination. And the same time another 3 chapters are there. When compared with these 3 chapters, the remaining 3 chapters are somewhat easier, somewhat simple. It is easy to answer the questions from these 3 chapters. They are learning assessment, and actually these 4 chapters are directly taken from the prescribed syllabus of the textbook for DLED course as well as BED course. But the remaining 2 areas mentioned in our syllabus are National Curriculum Framework 2005, and one of the most important point is Right to Education Act 2009. These 2 are the syllabus areas beyond the textbook, but there are so many references available with us. You have to go through those references, and actually that is not there in the syllabus mentioned, but if the paper setter give any question from this particular part, so we need to go through the another section of this area is National Education Policy 2020, but actually that is not there in the syllabus. If the paper setter give any question related to our child development pedagogy in the view of National Education Policy 2020, you should also need to answer those questions. So, that is also suggestible to follow for our examination. So, my dear friends, these 5 crucial areas are there in the examination. First one is development of child. This is related to the child from infant stage to the adult stage. There are so many theories discussed in this child development and pedagogy, and learning assessment, these two are interrelated areas. There is no assessment without learning, there is no learning without assessment. So, fourth area and second area are closely related areas. If you are going to analyze the syllabus portion given in the textbook, you should have to keep in mind in what way these theories are associated for assessment portion and what strategies actually going on in the existing school system. You should also get awareness of those things also. Now, we will discuss each and every portion given in the syllabus in a detailed way. Dear friends, under the title of Child Development and Pedagogy, we are going to understand how the child will develop. There are so many developmental stages. Some factors are influenced on the child development. In this part, development, growth and maturation. These concepts are clearly discussed in the syllabus. So, we have to understand what is the meaning of development, in what way development is differ from growth. If you want to understand the word growth, you need to understand about maturation. So, there is a connection between growth and maturation. In this particular part, there are so many theories. Some people believes that growth and maturation and development, growth and maturation, growth seems to be a physiological part. So, it is a physical entity, and the other thing development, in Telugu it is called as vikasam. Development is not only in the physical portion, it is a 360-degree developmental process. 360-degree means there are so many other development processes along with physical development. They are mental development, social development, emotional development, moral development. These are all associated with developmental process. So, if you want to measure growth, some devices are required. For example, if you want to measure the height of a particular child, you need some scale or tape and other devices. So, it is a quantifiable quantity. It is a quantifiable. You have to measure the height of one particular child, weight of one particular child. So, it is quantitative measurement. If you want to measure growth, growth is not quantifiable. You need some other tools, they are called psychological tools. We are going to measure moral development or emotional development or mental development with support of such type of prescribed psychometrics or psychomotor and other instruments. Actually, they are all not direct devices like our scales and tapes. They are all the mental tests. With support of those mental tests, we people have to assess the average level of one particular child. So, in our syllabus, these 3 points under understanding of child, how the child develop in across the developmental stages, how the child get his growth, in what way maturation helps in development of the child. These are all the concepts discussed here, and some other theories are also there. Some people believes that growth or development totally depends on the hereditary part. Hereditary is influencing the developmental processes. Some psychologists believes that environment plays a dominating role on the developmental process of individual child. These two are different entities. These theories are discussed in our syllabus. So, you have to list out names of the scientists or psychologists who studied the factors which are influencing on the development of the child in the light of hereditary. At the same time, some other psychologists, there is another school of thought, they studied that instead of hereditary, environment plays a dominating role. One best example here is Watson is an environmentalist. He said that if you gave me a child, I will make him whatever you want. So, he believes that the personality, behavior, intellectual capacities, attitudes, all the things will be developed with support of or by creating such type of environment around that particular child. So, that environment helps on the child to improve in such a way. So, you need to analyze, you need to classify, you need to identify the section of people who studied about psychological factors influencing on hereditary portion, and a group of scientists totally explained with support of environmental factors. So, this type of analysis is very much important while preparing for the examinations. But here the nature of question generally discussed in the examination is odd man out. Which statement according to Watson is not correct? Such type of questions may occur, may apply in the question paper. So, you need to understand how the points are discussed in the prescribed syllabus. This type of preparation is very essential. Dear friends, my humble request is, please go through the textbook. The content is very explained in a simple way, but the technical terms are there. You need to point out, you need to address, you need to analyze those technical terms. Without understanding these technical terms, it is not so easy to memorize all the things. Yes, of course, memorization is not a right way to understand the thing, but in the point of examination preparation, the only thing is memorization. How many points, how many areas you should keep in mind, that will give you good results. So, if you want to memorize all these things, you need to follow some psychological learning styles. What are they? Some kind of signing languages, some kind of arrangements which helps you to understand as well as memorize those things like a long time memory. some kind of coding pattern is very helpful. For example, if you want to remember or memorize the psychologists who studied about the hereditary factor on influence of hereditary factor on growth, you have to write the psychologist names in a sequential order, identify the first letter and make your own word with support of these first letters. It will helpful to memorize the list of scientists in a particular way. If a question may asked in the question paper, which of the following scientist is not related to the hereditary theory? So, you need to understand what are the group of scientists worked on hereditary, who among these scientists is not related to that portion. This type of questions may address easily with support of coding of letters. So, you have to follow such type of learning practices in your own preparation. And one more important point is here is there are so many principles of development and their education implications. Factors influencing development: biological factors, psychological factors and sociological factors. In this point, dimensions of development and their interrelationships are also discussed. Physical, motor, cognitive, emotional, social, moral, language related to infancy, early childhood, late childhood, adolescent, these are all the developmental stages. All of these developmental stages will be discussed in this chapter. In this chapter, one of the important thing is the developmental stages explained by Elizabeth Hurlock. Elizabeth Hurlock divided the human life into different stages and certain age group is prescribed. For example, if infancy, if a child takes birth one particular day, from that day onwards 1 year, 2 years, something, some kind of classification is there in the textbook. What is the age group of adolescent? What is the age group of preschooling area? What is the age group of adult? So, that type of age classification you have to recognize. And one more important portion in this syllabus is understanding different developmental theories. What are they? PJ theory, Kohlberg, Chomsky, Carl Rogers and Ericsson. These are all the developmental philosophers, developmental psychologists. They studied psychology in their perception. They discussed about different developmental stages of the child. At the same time, these developmental theories are helpful for us to understand how a particular child learns things from our surroundings. And here is Jean Piaget. Piaget theory particularly explains about child development. Some sensory parts are there. Those sensory organs helps the children to understand his surroundings. He get some knowledge with their sensory organs. So, Piaget explained about one particular word that is called schema or schemata. Schema means some experiences, some symbols which are stored in the mind. If a child engage in the environment or any one particular situation, for example, if you bring one particular child to the flower garden, there he saw some kind of roses, red rose, white rose and its smell, some butterflies are fluttering on the flowers, some thorns are also there. The petals of the rose is very soft in nature, These are all the experiences. So, some kind of symbol, some kind of recognition is imprinted in his brain. Such type of printings, such type of pictures, such type of imaginations are called schema. So, Piaget theory is very important one in child development. The questions almost from this theory in a direct mode, at the same time very simple application mode of questions are also there. The 4 developmental stages explained by Piaget is also important in the examination point of view. And Lawrence Kohlberg theory and Noam Chomsky. Chomsky discussed about language and development of child. When compared with remaining psychologists, Chomsky theory exclusively on the language, how the children acquire languages. Can they practice the language? Can they learn the language? Or is there any other process? Chomsky believes that there is a device in the human brain. There is no need to train the children to learn language. Children are capable to learn any language. That is instinct. That is already there in the brain. He believes that language is also a genetic factor. This travels from their parents to the child. Every child is capable to learn any language. These are all the important statements mentioned by Noam Chomsky. So, you need to understand what are the core points, what are the important points discussed in this theory. You need not worry about memorize all the things discussed by the psychologists. Basically, the important portions, what is language, how children acquire language, is it really trained, is it really learned? No, it is a genetical factor. Every child can learn language, every child can learn any language. Why? Because there is a chip like structure in the brain that is called language acquisition device. Like a microchip in our mobile phone or in the computer, there is a chip like structure in our brain. This helps us to learn any language. This is the core point of Noam Chomsky. And here one more important thing is, there are some important books written by these psychologists. For the examination point of view, you have to note down name of the psychologist and the book written by him. And another important name mentioned in the syllabus is Carl Rogers. He is also explained about developmental stages. And one of the most important developmental theory in our syllabus is Ericsson Theory. Ericsson. He also explained about the developmental stages of human life in a different way. Elizabeth Hurlock's style of differentiation is depend on the age groups. Here is also age group, but Ericsson theory is socio based theory. Socio means socially related. At the same time, psychological and personality issues are also mentioned in his theory. That is why it is socio-psychological developmental theory. Socio-psychological developmental theory. According to Ericsson, all the human developmental stages are totally depend on egocentric developmental stages. Ego means me, I am, aham. Ericsson theory is somewhat related to Freud's psychological theory. Freud's theories depend on libido and its interactions, that is a sexual factor. Ericsson is also follow the path suggested by the Freud, but he classified the human life in a different way, that is egocentric developmental stages. Freud's way of differentiation is based on libido-centric differentiation, but here it is egocentric differentiation. There are some differential stages according to Ericsson. In every stage of life, one positive attitude, one positive personality, at the same time one negative personality. Some characters may influence some experiences, some thoughts and opinions are also reflect in the behavior of the person. So, Ericsson theory is also very important for our examination. If you are going to read these things, you have to prepare your own plan. You should write these 3 type of human developmental stage analysis in a single paper. First one is it is Elizabeth Hurlock's theory, then you should write Freud's theory, then you should write Ericsson theory. You have to prepare your own plan. That is very easy to compare what are the points suggested by the Freud, what are the points suggested by the Ericsson, in what way Ericsson theory is different from Freud's theory, what are the similar areas in Elizabeth Hurlock's classification and Ericsson's classification. So, in your practice time, you have to prepare such type of notes. It will help us to understand the thing easier. And one more important point here is thinking. That is also mentioned in our syllabus. This comes under individual differences chapter. Thinking is in two different ways, divergent thinking and convergent thinking. Convergent thinking leads to one particular direction. So, most of the cases convergent thinking gives single suggestion, but whereas in divergent thinking there are so many solutions. For example, if you have one particular problem, if the student is capable to think in a convergent way, his answer is very particular, his answer is very apt to the problem. Whereas in divergent thinking, student is capable to answer multiple responses. If you ask one particular question in the classroom, there are 20 or 30 students in the classroom, they will give answers in their own way. That type of questions are called divergent questions. Divergent questions are most important. That leads to creative thinking. Intelligence and assessment, development of personality, personality concepts, factors affecting on development of personality, all the points are important here. Personality is an important chapter. In this chapter, different types of personality theories are there. Based on the personality theories, how the human behavior is influenced. These things will be discussed in personality theories. And among this personality development chapter, particularly Freud's theory mentioned in this chapter, and in what way personality is influenced by genetical factors and environmental factors. So, you need to identify, you need to analyze those things in these chapters. And another important point here is child rearing practices, how the child will be reared, and self concept, aham, self concept, and adjustment, this is also one important point in our syllabus, how the adjustmentable practice helps to frame our personality in a particular way. In what way adjustmentable ideology, adjustmentable behavior helps to solve problems around us. And one more important point in the personality chapter is defense mechanism. So, most of the cases, almost all the TET examinations or teacher recruitment tests, some questions certainly comes from this particular part, defense mechanism. There are 8 to 10 defense mechanisms are there. It is very simple to understand. One question certainly comes from this area. So, it is one of the important point. Some defense mechanism are there, very easy to answer for these questions. And most of the cases, the questions asked from this area is totally in application mode. So, try to understand what is the definition of the defense mechanism, in what way human beings are utilize these defense mechanism to mold his personality in a perfect way. And the another thing discussed in this portion is mental health. If a person participate in one situation, there are some obstacles or some problems are around us, how or in what way he address those challenges. If the person is unable to address those challenges, some mental stress will be arised. It leads to mental illness. Even in our classrooms, if the content portion or lesson explained by the teacher is not understandable to the student, he will suffer something. Finally, he leads to mental ill health. In such cases, schools should have some counseling centers. Teacher should act as a counselor. So, these points will discussed in mental health process. And one more point in our syllabus is methods and approaches of child development. If you are going to measure, if you are going to analyze the developmental process of the child, you need to follow proper methods. Some of the methods mentioned here is introspection, observation, interview, case study, experimentation. Some other areas are also there. They are called rating scales, anecdotal records, questionnaires, cross-sectional and longitudinal developmental tasks. These are all the observation tools. For example, anecdotal records will explain, if you go through the anecdotal record, children will explain his experiences, his past experiences. Based on those experiences, children frame their own personality perspectives. So, if you want to understand, if you want to analyze personality of a particular child, you need some rating scales, you need some case study processes. If you want to know the personality or behavior of the student, you need to conduct certain interviews. So, what is interview? What types of interviews are there? Interviewer responsibility is what? Who will conduct interview? These type of questions may ask in the examination about personality and child development areas. And one more important point in our examination is understanding learning. In the first chapter, in the first portion of the syllabus, almost 2-3 chapters are intermixed. They are development of child, that is nothing but growth and development, and creativity or intelligence and personality. These 3 areas are discussed in the first portion. Now, we will discuss about understanding learning. in our examination point of view, this is the most important chapter. Nearly out of 30 questions, 8 to 9, some in some cases it may be maximum number of questions are 8. Nearly 8 questions may asked from this particular chapter. It plays a dominant role, but this is not the fixed one. Actually, there is no specific subject weightage for chapters in the competitive examinations. Every chapter is important, every line in the textbook is important, every point discussed in the textbook, we should read those points in a particular way. And the major portion in this area is what is learning, how to understand the concept of learning, how, in what way different psychologists define the word learning. What is learning? Is it a behavioral part? Is it a psychological part? Or is it influenced by the environment? All the things are discussed in this definition area. So, first of all, if you want to become a good teacher, not only for the TET examination, this is more essential to understand what is learning, how children learn, what factors are influencing on the children to learn. Is there any separate learning styles? Is there any individual learning processes? Is there any different types of learning theories? All the points will be discussed under this chapter. And what processes and what outcomes of this learning process. Nowadays, the word learning outcome, it is a most important word. In the learning process, learning outcome is the objective. If you want to make the child to learn something, first of all you have to define the learning outcome. After completion of the learning, the children are able to perform that particular thing. So, the learning outcome explains the learning process, learning behavior, learning assessment, all the things. So, if you want to understand the concept of learning, you need to address all these points. Dear friends, in this particular chapter, most of the definitions are directly asked in the previous examinations also. So, this is very easy to get answers from this chapter. Most of the cases, different theories are also there, different approaches are also there. The first and foremost important approach or theory discussed in learning is Pavlov's theory, stimulus and response theory. Question will be asked in a direct mode. There is no difficulty in this particular portion. Why? Because some kind of condition is there. Based on the condition, response will be arised. If you want to make it practice, some bond may be established between stimulus and response. The bond is nothing but learning. According to Pavlov, if you provide such type of practice, the bond may be strengthened. So, stimulus and response are the important factors explained by Ivan Pavlov, a Russian scientist. He did experiments with a dog. You are also familiar with these experiment and theories. But the thing here is, you need not worry about the total experimental process. You just pay attention on what is stimulus, what is response. If the stimulus is it external or internal? If it is external, what will happen? If it is internal, what will happen? There is a response for this stimulus. If you continue the same response, if you want to continue the same response, some condition may be created. This is the core part of Pavlov's theory. And another important learning theory is Taran Dyke theory. This is also most important area in our examination. Taran Dyke also conducted so many experiments. According to his theory, learning will take place, some principles or some statements are there, result oriented, law of effect. If you create one particular situation, if you allow the student to participate in one particular situation, some result may be arised. If the result is positive, child shows interest to learn things on his own way. If the result is not in a proper way or not in a right way, the child shows uninterest. He is not interested to participate in the learning process. And the same time, according to Taran Dyke, practice is more important. Practice means it is not repeating the same thing again and again. For example, if a student did a mistake in the dictation time, most of the cases teachers said that please copy the particular wrong word in 20 times, 30 times. This is not the practice. According to Thorndike, practice means if you want to acquire specific skill in that particular area, you have to use that particular ability in different situations. So, practice is not in a similar line. You have to use that particular part in different situations. For example, if a student is unable to write the word market, for example, the spelling of the market is not correct, you need not ask the students to repeat the market in 10 times or 20 times. You ask the student to write different sentences by using the word market. For example, yesterday my mother went to the market. There is a big market in our town. Some people buy and sell at the market. Such type of sentences will helpful the student to understand the concept of the market, not the spelling of the market. So, according to Taran Dyke, practice is also one of the important portion. And another important theory discussed in this chapter is B.F. Skinner. This is called programmed learning. Learning is not an isolated or independent task. It may be the activity, it may be the practice, it may be the participating portion. So, if you allow the student to participate in the learning situation, the student should pay his attention on that area, his mind, his hands, his eyes, some sensory organs are also participate in the learning process, then children will get some skills. So, according to Skinner's theory, we should allow the students to do something, we should create such kind of practice, such kind of environment in the classroom, let the student to participate in that situation, then they acquire certain skills. But these acquiring skills is in a sequential order. If you complete one particular portion, then he will get some skills. Then he is allowed to attend another activity. If the particular student complete the second activity, he will learn some skills. Then he is allowed to third activity. So, in a sequential way, children can learn things in a sequential order. So, in the B.F. Skinner's theory, it is a programmed learning, and some other theories are also there. Among those theories, one of the important thing is Constructivism. and Gestalt theory, observational theory. Above all the theories what we discussed, Skinner, Pavlov and Taran, Dyke, they are all the behavioralistic theories. Piaget-Vygotsky theories as constructivistic theories. These are all the new trends across the globe. At present, constructivism plays a dominant role in school learning processes. Piaget and Vygotsky proposed those theories. According to constructivism, you need not make the student to learn things. He is capable, he has certain skills, he comes from this world with certain abilities. They are called innate abilities. Each child has certain abilities except some mentally retarded people. So, every child is capable to learn things on his own way. That is why this theory is called constructivism. Child is able to construct on his own way. The role of the teacher in this teaching learning process is he just scaffold the student to learn things on his own way. He just support the student. That is called constructivism. And another thing, Kohler, Kofka, these psychologists are called Gestaltian theories. Gestalt means comprehensive, whole, like a whole. If you allow the student in the learning situation, if you allow the student to identify or select the solution for the given problem, the student is allowed to observe his surroundings. On his surroundings, what are the resources are available, what actual problems are there, what is the solution for this problem, then he come to certain solutions by observing all the resources available around him or her. This is called Gestaltian theory. And another important point is observation. Observational theories are proposed by Albert Bandura. These are all the learning theories. And dimensions of learning is also very important. Learning is multidimensional. Sometimes it may be cognitive, sometimes it may be affective. Actually, we are all aware with our methodological portion, the name is familiar to us. I think taxonomy, Bloom's taxonomy. In the book Taxonomy of Educational Objectives, Benjamin Bloom's stated that there are three different domains. One is cognitive domain, and the other thing is psychomotor domain, next one is affective domain. After 3 decades of Bloom's theory, there is a revised Bloom's taxonomy also come into force. But in our examination point of view, you need to confine these 3 domains. What are they? Cognitive, affective and psychomotor domains. So, these 3 domains are plays a dominant role in the learning process. Teacher has to create, teacher has to provide the suitable classroom teaching learning processes to learn things among the students. And motivation is also an important part in learning. Memory, forgetting, transfer of learning is also some important points. Most of the cases, some questions may ask on transfer of learning, that is abhyasana badalayimpu. Transfer of learning is also very important portion. If you have certain knowledge in one particular part, that will help us to learn in another thing. Some kind of knowledge is transferred from this area to that area. Some techniques should follow to memorize the things, and the same time forgetness. why the human being are unable to memorize all the things. There is no 100% memory. After few days, some portion of the learnings will be disappear. Finally, certain amount of experiences will be remain in our mind. These things are also discussed in the portion. So, my dear friends, you have to discuss, you need to understand all the things in this particular way. Kabatti English medium lo exam రాయాలనుకుంటున్న వాళ్ళందరికీ this type of teaching, this type of learning practice is most important. మీరు చదివేటప్పుడు ఏం చేస్తారంటే ఒక తెలుగు అకాడమీ ఇచ్చిన డిఎడ్ సైకాలజీ బుక్, at the same time B.Ed psychology book, those two books are sufficient. You need not go beyond those books. అది సరిపోతాయి. వాటిలో ఉన్న కంటెంట్ని ఒకసారి చూడండి. సేమ్ టైం మీరు ఎగ్జామ్లో ఆల్మోస్ట్ సెంటెన్సెస్ యాజ్ ఇట్ ఈజ్ టెక్స్ట్ బుక్లో ఉన్నవే వస్తుంటాయి. నీడ్ నాట్ వర్రీ. బట్ ద ప్రాబ్లమ్ విత్ క్వశ్చన్స్ ఈజ్ odd man and another type of questions. Which of the following statement is not correct? Which of the following statement is not related to the theory? Among the following psychologists, who is different from? Such type of questions will be asked. So, to give answer for these questions, you need to write your own notes. అట్లా తయారు చేసుకుంటే సులభంగా మనం దాన్ని సక్సెస్ అవ్వడానికి అవకాశం ఉంటుందన్నమాట. కాబట్టి ప్రాక్టీస్ పేపర్స్ చాలా ఎంత ఎక్కువ చేస్తే అంత మంచిది. మీరు మనకి వెబ్సైట్లో ఉన్నటువంటి ప్రాక్టీస్ తీసుకోండి. అలాగే there are so many model papers are available in the market that will also helpful for us. But the మీరు లెర్నింగ్ కోసం ఏం చేస్తారు అని అంటే ఫస్ట్ ఒక్కసారి క్వశ్చన్ ఎలా ఫ్రేమ్ అయింది అని అన్నది చూడండి. ఇన్ వాట్ వే ద క్వశ్చన్ ఈజ్ ఫ్రేమ్డ్ బై ద పేపర్ సెట్టర్, అంటే ఎలా చేస్తున్నారు, టెక్స్ట్ బుక్లో ఏ కంటెంట్ని క్వశ్చన్ లాగా ఎలా మారింది అని చూడండి. The whole thing in the teacher eligibility test is elimination process. We are not going to identify this particular person. ఆ ఎలిమినేషన్ ప్రాసెస్ అన్నది మనకు కనిపిస్తుంది. కాబట్టి క్వశ్చన్ దగ్గర కూడా ఏం చేస్తారంటే వాట్ డిస్ట్రాక్టర్స్ ఆర్ దేర్. మోస్ట్ ఆఫ్ ద కేసెస్ two distractors are very closely associated to the answer. So, you have to identify the correct answer. This is very typical, this is very critical time to analyze the thing. In that cases మీరు ఒక కరెక్ట్ ఆన్సర్ని ఎంపిక చేసుకోవాలి అని అంటే కాన్సెప్ట్ తెలుసుంటే తప్పక దాన్ని తీసుకోలేరు. కాబట్టి కాన్సెప్ట్ టెక్స్ట్ బుక్లో ఎలా చెప్పున్నారు అని అన్నది చూడండి. ఒక్కొక్క లైన్ని అర్థం చేసుకోవడానికి ప్రయత్నం చేయండి. దాన్ని అట్లా చదివినప్పుడు ఇట్ ఈస్ వెరీ సింపుల్. తర్వాత మన దగ్గర ఉన్నటువంటి థియరీస్ అన్నీ ఏమైనాయి అంటే ఒకదాంతో ఒకటి అసోసియేట్ అయి ఉంటాయి అన్నమాట. ఫర్ ఎగ్జాంపుల్, ఇఫ్ యూ ఆర్ గోయింగ్ టు లెర్న్ థియరీస్ ఫ్రమ్ ద లెర్నింగ్ చాప్టర్, యూ నీడ్ టు అండర్స్టాండ్, యూ హ్యావ్ సర్టన్ బేసిక్ అండర్స్టాండింగ్ అబౌట్ గ్రోత్ అండ్ డెవలప్మెంట్ పర్సనాలిటీ. అంటే ఇవి రెండు చదవకుండా లెర్నింగ్ చాప్టర్ చదవడం అన్నది అర్థం కాదనమాట. బట్ ఎట్ ద సేమ్ టైమ్ Freudian theories are there in the personality chapter, Ericsson theory there in the growth and development chapter. So, these two chapters will reappear in intelligence part and learning part. So, some kind of interaction, some kind of interrelationship is there. Please identify, please recognize such type of interrelations. It is very easy, it is very simple to understand. Please write your own notes, you will get success in the examination. Thank you.